Well, good Monday evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Bowling with the Pfaff, a platform for you to share your unique bowling story live on our YouTube channel. Love it when my 10-year-old gets in there with a comment. That's him right there saying hi. He actually left that over the weekend, so it's not like he's on live or anything. He's over at basketball practice, which is good for me because we can kind of do this not without uninterrupted, without distractions. So always enjoy that. Be sure to subscribe to our channel. We are getting closer and closer to that 1,000 subscriber goal, although I'm still a couple hundred subscribers away. But it really does help us, create content. And it can help you be ready for the next time we have recorded content or live videos on the channel. And I certainly do appreciate it. Earlier today, the USBC announced its pricing structure for BowlTV live streaming subscriptions. You may have caught over the course of the week that the USBC announced it would take on live streaming of the PBA Tour, along with its other events that it's typically live streamed, coverage of the PWBA College, PBA 50, and junior events. It's setting those prices at $99.95 for the year for existing subscribers, and then for those who open up a new account before the end of the year, then it's $119.95 starting on the first of the year. If you go monthly, it's $12.95 a month, and that's what it'll cost you to subscribe to BowlTV to see some of that live streaming stuff. But we want to talk about some free live streaming stuff, right? Free is always better. The Chippewa Valley Match Games is coming up the first weekend of the new year, January 7th and 8th at Wagner's Lanes in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. And that is a tournament that's $100 to enter. There are two squads of qualifying on the Saturday. Then they take the top 24 into Sunday's match play. And then there's a 5-person stepladder to determine a champion. And that's where I come in. We're going to stream that stepladder live. This will be the second consecutive year where you can catch that stepladder live on the channel. It'll start at about 2 p.m. Central on Sunday, and that depends on when match play concludes. That's kind of fluid sometimes. And if you're interested in registering for the event, contact Denny Burkhart, the tournament director. You can call him at 715-864-7370 or email him at denburk@sbcglobal.net. That is one of the premier amateur events in Western Wisconsin. $1,500 for the champ this time around, and I can't wait to live stream the championship 5, the stepladder there at the Chippewa Valley Match Games. Another reminder: today is the last day of voting in Volume 1's Best of the Chippewa Valley Reader Poll. I thank everybody for their support. If they voted already, if you haven't, you still have a few hours. bit.ly/bowling or vote BWTF 2023 to get your vote in for Best Podcast. Best of the Chippewa Valley. Volume 1 is kind of an arts and entertainment newspaper, the kind of thing you find free at the grocery store. But I thank all of you who have supported the channel in that so far, and certainly appreciate it. If you haven't voted yet and do, Max Grabara, former guest watching us live. Hey, Max, hope you're doing well. And as I was saying, really appreciate the votes. We will see, I believe in February, who ends up taking the title of best podcast in the Chippewa Valley. Bowling with the Pfeff certainly can't happen the way it does without our support from Chip Magnet Salsa. Chip Magnet is a local company, at least local to me. It's in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. They make salsa, relish, all kinds of other products, and they distribute to stores in more than 38 states and Canada. In Minnesota's Twin Cities metro area, you can find Chip Magnet at Whole Foods, Nolan's Festival Foods, Kowalski's, Lunds and Byerly's, and most small co-op stores. If Chip Magnet isn't in a store near you, you can always order online. ChipMagnetSalsa.com is the address. Nothing better under the tree than a little cilantro lime salsa from Chip Magnet. Chip Magnet Salsa, raise your snack standards. So let's get into tonight's show. We've got a good one for you. Tonight, our guest had a whale of a tournament last month in Andover, Minnesota, winning doubles and placing second in handicap all events at the USBC Twin Cities Association Women's Championship. She's also had quite a junior career, and if you've seen the title of this episode, then you understand that she loves sunflowers. Facing the Sun with Jessica Boyer from Elk River, Minnesota. Jessica, welcome to the show.
Hi.
Glad to have you on tonight. You had a weekend full of bowling. Tell me about this team challenge event that you bowled. It sounds like you did pretty well in a Baker format, right?
Mm-hmm. It was over at Flaherty's, down kind of Arden Hills area over there. I was bowling with my husband, his son, Patrick Powers, Tim Warner, and it was really good teams. We did really well, I think, personally. Like I said, we kind of just coasted. There was no really lows, really highs, but we sat in the middle, stayed positive. We weren't last, that's always great. So it was tough because I had to play way right, way outside where I'm not comfortable throwing, but it worked in my favor, and I was throwing a ball I'm not comfortable throwing. Like I said, I think I only had 3 opens out of those 14 games and, being Baker. So I'm not upset about my performance this weekend.
Yeah, that sounds great. We should also get right into a performance that you were really comfortable with, and that was that USBC Twin Cities Association Women's Championship. You were part of a great group of ladies that included Katie Hafland, and I messaged her about it. She told me that you are a banger, and that she was so excited that you wanted to bowl with her as a doubles partner, but it didn't turn out that way. You ended up bowling with Justice Schihl. Tell us about how all that came to be.
So I've been kind of finding my way through tournament teams since I came out of juniors. I started with Dawn King, fresh out of juniors in 2015. Bowled for with her about a year. I kind of ventured away and bowled with Jazzy, which was this Trista Kim's team. Kind of fell apart, and then I kind of was like, I'll just sub, kind of hang out, just kind of do whatever, be an open bowler for people who need it. Dawn came back to me again and was like, hey, getting a tournament team again, want to come back? I'm like, absolutely, let's do it. I do enjoy bowling with them. I think they're a lot of fun. Yes, and I wanted to have Katie on with us, so I could bowl with her. I did get to bowl with her at Nationals last year. And then this year, Dawn is injured with her shoulder, so there had to be some changes and everything. So I did get partnered with Justice. And I think that was awesome. We worked really well together, but I do love Katie. And I know we can rock doubles together as well. She's so much fun, and I love having her around because it's always a fun time and never a bad time.
Yeah. And she's still celebrating your performance with Justice at City. Walk us through how that went down. I mean, you go into this thing, somewhat new team, new partner. What happened after that? When
Dawn told me I was going to be partners with Justice, I'm like, this is going to be exciting. Like, I know she knows what she's doing. She's a great bowler. And I told her, I said, I'm determined to get a first place title under my belt again. I won first place doubles, scratch, and handicap with Nicole Francois back in 2016 with her, and the 600 tournament with her back in 2016 as well. And I'm like, I need another first place title, whether it's singles, doubles, anything. And Justice, we worked really well together and coached each other through. She's like, hey, looks like it's doing this. Maybe just do this, like move up a tad or move a half a board left, or, and we helped each other really well. And I think it was just a very positive, good thing. And I loved being partners with her because we were so excited to, we were bowling really well, and we got this, and we did it. And yeah. I hope I didn't put too much pressure on her. I was like, I'm determined. We're going to get it. I'm going to get this first place.
Yeah. And you did, specifically in the doubles event. She was another one that I messaged, and she said watching you bowl so well was great. It put a lot of energy, in the team, and definitely drove her, to show up as a partner. The doubles set was your best out of the three, correct?
Yeah, I had a 719. And then we shot, I believe it was like 1360 or something solo. And then with handicap, I think 1394, somewhere around there. Yeah.
Good enough to, to take first place. Afterwards, you posted on Facebook that you showed up to the best of your ability, and that you hope you can keep this positive string of bowling going. Mm-hmm. Tell me about the positive string in totality, because a lot of us just are realizing, hey, she did really well in the association tournament. What else does this encompass? How long have you been nailing them?
I mean, my bowling has, like everybody has its years of ups and downs. Like, it's hard. When I bowled my first 800 back in January 2020, so a couple months before COVID hit.
Yeah.
And then I came out when we kind of reopened to bowl again, and I struggled. I don't know if and it was like, oh, it's not because I just took a couple months off. I do that every year. Like, it's a normal thing in the summer. But I went through a really rough 2020 though as well, but I couldn't put up any 700s. I couldn't hardly, like 600s are even hard to get. I was struggling left and right. And then I met my husband. I've known him since 2015, but we became teammates in 2019. And I was actually watching Justice bowl, and she was throwing the Rubicon UC2, and I told him, I said, I need that ball. I watched her throw a 300 with it. And I'm like, I need that ball. Because all I was throwing was Brunswick and deviate. Nothing against that. But I'm like, I want that ball. And we got it the summer of 2021. And fresh out the box, I shot my first 300 with it. So Justice was kind of an inspiration for that. Thanks to her. Because I was like, no, I don't want to throw a Storm Roto Grip. But he's like, just try it. And, and now that I have him, my confidence has gone way up with bowling, because I have somebody who's also a bowler who is watching my game and paying attention and making sure I get the help I need. So with that, my average and my tournaments and everything have gone way up. And so I'm really thankful for him for that too.
Yeah. That's interesting, because, I've heard of, married couples that are both bowlers, and the dynamic is always a little different. Sometimes it's we help each other out all the time, and it's great. Other times it's, okay, I'm doing my thing, and I'm not having that. It sounds like you guys are more on the former side of this. So what's it like to to kind of work with each other as you do your best to succeed in this crazy game we're all
in? It's fun, and it has its days where some days there are my bad days still where I struggle, and he's like, do this or try this. And I'm like, I don't want to. I please don't kind of thing. But I mean, in the end, I do I'm like, oh yeah, maybe, yeah, you're right kind of thing. But I mean, 9 times out of 10, we're really good. We help each other. I'm very competitive. My husband's a fantastic bowler, and I'm always like, I want to beat you. I'm just determined by him to be able to beat him. He's so great. And so,
yeah, he really is. I've seen lots of honor scores and the like that he's put up over the years.
Oh yeah,
pretty impressive. Looks like we got a little conversation between HJMW and Max. Oh, that's Mike Johnson. Back and forth they go. Max says that he voted. Thank you. Really appreciate that, Max, and that justice is incredible. I would tend to agree.
Mhm.
She bowled in the Twin Cities Open, had a nice little run in qualifying there as well. Yeah. All right, so let's get into the sunflowers. I mean, people are probably coming into this knowing that because I put you in front of a big patch of sunflowers. We happen to have had one of the larger sunflower displays in the Midwest, just southwest of town here. But what's the deal? My wife loves sunflowers, so I was excited to hear that you do too.
Honestly, I've always really kind of certain flowers I really like, but some flowers have always just kind of stuck out. They're bright and they're yellow, and yellow is a happy color. I just have, and there's different kinds of sunflowers. I don't know specific names, but like there's deep red, blood orangish sunflowers. There's like almost black. Like I just think they're gorgeous and how big they can get. I mean, I made my husband go take professional photos with me in a sunflower field. I'm like, let's go. I got a whole sleeve. I got a whole half a sleeve of sunflowers on my arms.
Oh wow. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Um, all right. So, on the show, I mean, we kind of go back to, as one of my former bosses would have said, back to when the earth cooled, back to when you first started bowling. Along with mentioning how proud she is of you, Katie recalled that she first met you when you were younger, when your dad dragged you along to scratch trios 24 years ago. Was that when you first got into it, or was it before or after?
I've kind of been in a bowling alley my whole life. When my mom was pregnant with me, she worked at the bowling alley at Earl Brown in Brooklyn Center.
Oh, wow.
Yep. They had me, and they said sometimes they'd stick me in a pack and play in the corner at the bowling alley.
Okay.
As I got older, I asked them just so I knew. This weekend, I was like, "What age did I truly, get into it?" And they're like, "Probably 5 or 6 when you could enter." So with that, yeah, I started my, the Pee Wee junior group at Earl Brown, where my dad worked and my mom worked. So ever since I was 5, 6 years old, so 22, 23 years, I've been doing it.
Yeah. Earl Brown is a center that's no longer there, unfortunately. I have a little history there just because I spent 8.5 years in Plymouth, and that was close enough that we had traveling league there and other tournaments and the like. I always found it really tough to succeed there, and I wonder if that's the case for others. Do you think that that was a place that's tougher, more on the easy side? I mean, I could have been just a strange case, but maybe not. What are your thoughts on how Earl Brown played for you?
Well, it's hard because so my juniors, my Pee Wee, like when I was really little, the Pee Wee side, I was there up for a few years, and then my dad moved over to Maple Lane, so I followed, and I
Okay.
really wasn't, throwing that typical like curve ball. I was still a straight bowler, didn't know really what I'm doing. Um, but when I got into high school, middle school, high school, I joined my high school bowling league, and that was our home center.
Ah, okay.
I personally, maybe it was because I just didn't have, at that age, a lot of hand or revs or anything. Not that I do now, but more than I did. I thought I did really well during high school. I actually beat out Wyzetta one year for high school and brought us to the top. And then we had a MJBT there, and I placed 6th there, so I was not upset. So I mean, for me, it was obviously easy, you could say.
Yeah.
But if it was open today, I'm sure there would be tough and rough spots. I've heard it can be tough there.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Tell me about coaching. If your parents are there, they're bowlers, they're working in the bowling centers, do they become the ones that then kind of coach you up and get you growing in the game, or are there others?
My mom isn't as serious as my father is. Like we are. she likes to go and have fun and does her one night a week. But my dad was always in tournaments, and obviously managed bowling alleys. He knew what to do for me when I needed it. And to this day, like I do have other coaches. I had growing up, I had Greg Chido at one point. Ron Cleveland, I love him. He is one of the sweetest guys I've ever met. I can't thank him enough for a lot that he's done for me. Kenny Hollitz worked really, really hard for me. I landed on the wrong foot when I was growing up. So he got me out of that, and I had a really bad hesitation that Kenny Hollitz helped me with. He got me out of that as well. And then I saw Dan Trisky for a little bit. I even got some pointers from Matt McNeil. I asked him for help after league. Sometimes I'm like, hey, Matt, I'm struggling. I don't know what to do. And he was nice enough to take time and watch me and be like, yep, do this and change this. And as I told you earlier, I even messaged Daria on Instagram and sent her videos, and she's helped me.
Wow.
So I've been coached all over, but my dad, he's the one person that, like, if I have people chit-chatting in my ear left and right to do this, this, and this, he's like, stop, go back to your basics, go back to the old school. And 9 times out of 10, he's right, and it works.
Yeah. You said he's more serious than your mom either is or was. Tell me about him. I mean, was he a competitive player? Was he bowling in leagues?
Yeah, actually, so growing up, he didn't really care too much for bowling when he was little. But his dad, my grandfather, did. And then my grandfather passed away when he was 10 at Maple Lanes at the bowling alley. And that's when my dad was like, I don't want to bowl. I don't want to. And my grandma's like, no, I think you should do it in his honor. Da, da, da. Like, and he did, and he picked it up. And if anyone knows my dad is considered legally blind. He has one bad eye. So bowling he can't see down the lanes. He can't see the arrows. It's harder for him to see. But he has honor scores. He's a big bowler. I don't know about tournament titles, what he has for that. I do know he has about 4 or 5 300s, I think, and maybe 2 800s.
Okay.
But yeah, he's a bowler, but now as he's getting older, it's slowing down, obviously, and he kind of just does it for fun now to hang out with his buddies on Wednesdays.
Yeah. Mark loves your dad. That is Mark, right?
Yes, Mark. Oh, I love him. He's a sweetheart too. He comes and hangs out with us, and yeah.
Yeah. He thinks this is awesome. I do too. I'm really glad you came on. Tom Mitchell says that he is proud of you. Who's Tom?
That's my godfather.
Ah, okay. All right. Is he a bowler too?
He is.
Okay.
He is. And we always had a bet who could bowl their 800 first, which was me. And he owes me for dinner for that still.
Oh, okay. Well, interest is gaining, right? It's been a little while now. So, yeah, hopefully you'll be able to collect. You mentioned the Minnesota Junior Bowlers Tour, that stop at Earl Brown. Tell me about getting into that. What had you heard? What was your experience like when you first started? Maybe your first MJBT?
Nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
Because I didn't feel like I fit in. I didn't feel like I was good enough to be there. I was very quiet, and people will tell you I'm not a quiet person when I'm around the right people. So going into there, I was pretty just kind of kept to myself, and not knowing what I know now, I wish I could have done more. I wasn't able to bowl very many just due to funds and everything. So I normally had people try and sponsor me. But it was still fun. It was hard. It was challenging. I learned from it. And I really, really wish I would have done more.
Sure.
Looking back.
Yeah. Tell me about what you learned about yourself through those tournaments. They're typically longer format. At least when I was in them, I remember them being, 8 games of qualifying and maybe 8 more, 10 more of match play. And
Nope.
you really learn that bowling is a lot different in that setting than it is, in a junior league, in a traveling league, anything like that. How about you? What would you learn about yourself through those?
That I need to work on my mental when it comes to that kind of stuff, because I had so much to learn. I'm like, why didn't it do this? Why did I leave this? What am I doing wrong? So it's a learning curve out there. If like I said, I was nothing what I am now. So learning how to hook a ball and learning how to get my timing down and my ball speed, and that was hard. That's hard, but it was a lot of fun, and I'm super excited that at least I made sixth place at least at one.
Okay.
So, and it wasn't last.
Yeah. I think Max says pay up, Mark. I think it's Tom, right? Tom's the one who owes you.
Yeah, my godfather. Yep.
Yeah. So pay up, Tom. You mentioned high school. Tell me about that. About getting on that team. What the format of your meets were like. That kind of stuff.
It was funny because I did not know my high school had a bowling team.
Okay.
I walked in my 7th grade year to Earl Brown. I don't know if I was going to see my dad or what I was doing, but I walked in and I'm like, what is going on? Why are all these schools here? And then I saw my school and I went up and I talked to the coach and I'm like, hey, I go to this school. I'm in 7th grade. Like, what's this about? She goes, well, the season's almost done. It was like at the very end, there was only a couple more weeks left or whatever. And she's like, join next year. So I went and I joined my 8th grade year. And from 8th grade to my senior year, I was there every single practice, every single game. I didn't miss. It was a very emotional one my senior year for it being done. But it was, I just walked in. I was like, what is going on? I didn't know we had a team.
Yeah.
So
did you go to Park Center?
Brooklyn Center.
Brooklyn Center. Okay.
Brooklyn Center. Yep.
And tell me about the team. I mean, who were there? People that you kind of gravitated toward, or made new friends through this team, or anything?
I knew a couple of them from actually bowling at Earl Brown and juniors. And then some we actually combined with Patrick Henry. So we had a couple kids from Patrick Henry as well. I always gravitated towards the older kids, the older classmen. Don't know why. I always have. Even any school that was there, I gravitated towards the older kids. So that was kind of where I sat, was with the older kids.
Okay. Was it all Baker? Were there traditional games in it?
Nope, all Baker.
All Baker. Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. And tell me about competing that way, because that's different for a lot of people. I mean, high school was my first exposure to the Baker system, and you kind of have to. It's a different mindset, right?
Mm-hmm. Going in, I didn't know what Baker was because obviously I wasn't as serious, so I didn't know. And all of a sudden, like, oh, you're gonna bowl second and 7th, and I'm like, what? I'm gonna bowl what? I'm thinking I'm gonna get this whole game to myself, and I'm like, oh, okay. And in the end, I didn't mind it. It was nice. It was fun to work together as a team. There was junior varsity and varsity. I was obviously I was on junior varsity my first couple years because I'm also a younger classman. I wasn't this big shooter. So, but as I got, my sophomore, junior, senior year, I was on varsity.
Okay. And who was your coach, and what were the expectations of being on, either junior varsity or varsity?
Karen, I don't know how to pronounce her last name. I believe it's like Inzarello. It was, kind of about age more so than anything, because that's just, I guess, how it was. But if, once I hit my sophomore year, though, we saw that I could, finally put up some scores and numbers, and she was like, oh, yeah. And I got put on varsity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, so let me catch up on some of these comments. Tom says he will pay up, so that's good. Mark says he owes you Starbucks
Always.
So, that's just an ongoing thing. Okay, all right. That's a good ongoing thing to have. I mean, I don't have one. Someone who owes me Starbucks all the time. This is a good part in the show, just to remind everybody to subscribe to the channel. Like I said in the intro, getting closer to 1,000 subscribers, and with your help, hopefully we'll get there. You can click that little logo in the bottom right. It'll take you right to where you need to be to subscribe to the channel. So coming out of high school, did you consider bowling in college, going to college, or was it straight to adults, or was there junior competition in between?
So that's a funny story. In high school, I wanted to go to Florida so I could be a marine biologist. So obviously I was looking up schools of bowling. But as my senior year crept closer, I wanted to go to Nebraska, and then I wanted to go to St. Cloud. And then I'm like, I don't want to go anywhere. I went right to community college. I'm like, I don't want to be away. I get homesick easily. I'm like, I don't want to go. And I mean, as I'm older now, I kind of regret not going somewhere to get that experience after watching, like, I love following the Nebraska Huskers and McKendree. Those are probably two of my favorite to watch. I'm like, dang, why didn't I go do that? But that's what I chose to do.
Yeah. No, that's did you continue with juniors or did you go right into adults?
Oh yeah, I stayed in juniors until I couldn't, until I was, I believe it's 21.
Okay.
But now it's 18. But yeah, I stayed until I was 21. I wanted all that smart money I could get myself through school.
There you go. Good call. Jeff says hi from Jeff and Tiffany. I'm hoping you know who they are.
Yes, my husband bowls with Jeff on Thursday nights, and I bowl with his wife Tiffany on Tuesday nights.
Okay. At which house? Blainebrook?
Yep.
Okay, cool. And Mark says he just subscribed. So
Yay!
That's great. Thank you, Mark. I really appreciate that. I'd give it one of these. Thank you, Mark. I hope you enjoy the channel and all the notifications you'll get from here on out. So you get through the junior thing. Obviously, you can't stay there forever, and you go into adult competition. Tell me what that was like for you.
Even though I was 21 and considered a legal adult, I went with my dad right away and I joined the Monday night Texa-Tonka League, the Twin Cities League, and yeah, the Twin Cities I could totally spaced on the name. Yeah, the Twin Cities Masters. I grew up there probably since I was 11 or 12, so I watched a lot of people there that forever, and I finally came out of juniors, and that's where I went. The first week I was done with juniors, my dad's like, "Hey, we need you to sub on Monday night." I'm like, "I just got out of juniors 2 days ago." He's like, "Come sub," and I'm like, "Oh gosh." So it was a little nerve-wracking coming out and bowling with the adults, and there were some big hot shots in that league. I got Matt McNeil where I'm like, "Oh my gosh, he's professional," and obviously others, but I was just like, "Oh my, this is it's kind of scary."
Did you do well in that league?
Yeah, I maintained not the highest average, but I maintained some years anywhere from a 205 to a 213 in that league. But I am no longer in that league. It's kind of folded. So last year was my last year.
Gotcha. Where I guess tell me about some of the leagues you've kind of either been in or dabbled in since then, and where do you bowl and why?
Well, juniors, I bounced around. I was at Earl Brown, and then when my dad left and went to Maple Lanes, I followed my dad because I wanted to stay with my dad. And then all of a sudden, the league at Maple Lanes for juniors kind of just fell apart, and there was nobody there. And then I followed my dad to Saxon Lanes, and because he managed Saxon, and that's where I finished out my juniors. And they had a scholarship program. You paid an extra $5 or $10, and you get put in the scholarship program, and there's winnings at the end of the year. Then once I finished there, I joined adult league at Texa-Tonka. And I stayed there. I didn't go anywhere besides that. I did drop 1 year because I was having a really, really bad year. I'm like, I'm not improving. So I left 2019, I left in 2019. I went over to the Mermaid and joined Johnny Cryer's league. It was a sports shot league to try and improve. And I bowled with Johnny Cryer, Tom Jones, and Nick Hogan. And they helped me a lot and helped me, work better on a sports shot pattern and figure out what ball I need to throw, where I need to stand, how I need to do this. And then I actually got asked to sub full time with my husband on Monday nights. So I'm like, well, guess I'm coming back. So, and then I've been back there ever since until this year now.
Cool. Yeah. Mm-hmm. What was that sports shot experience like? I mean, had you bowled a lot of sport before then?
That was my first time ever. There were some patterns that I'm like, oh, this is a cakewalk. And then there's others I'm like, why am I bowling? I question my existence to bowling.
All right. So I also messaged Amber Duty, who told me that you're extremely passionate about your game. That's the one thing that she loves about you, besides being a good person. She said that she was always intrigued by how you tilted the ball down the lane because you could dominate certain conditions that nobody else seemed to be able to figure out. So is that the kind of thing you're intentional about, or is it just you just doing what you do and it just kind of turns out that way?
Exactly. I'm just doing what I'm doing and it turns out that way. I've never learned how to mess with my hand. I've never learned how to do that. I'm one of the few, I feel like, women bowlers that I can move way left and I can play the lane. I can play way right and play straight up. I honestly don't know how I do that. I just do.
Yeah. Well, it's obviously a good thing if she brought it up. Another thing she brought up, and I don't want to put you on the spot here, but I'm supposed to ask you about Nugget and let you tell the story if you remember it. She said it was 2015, 2016 when we stayed in Alexandria, cold as hell, and we were all in the hot tub. What do we need to know about Nugget?
So this was my first women's, traveling tournament. We were up in Alexandria and all in the hot tub having a good time drinking. My dad's hanging out with us and all the guys, Kenny Hollitz, Don King, all of them. Well, Amy slipped and fell and whacked her face on the corner of the hot tub.
Oh my God.
And it was, obviously alcohol's involved. It's wet, and it was just one of those things we're all laughing about. And we started calling her Nugget. So we have a teammate we just call Nugget. It's her nickname from 2015, 16 to now. And it's 8 years later that we're still calling her that.
Yeah, it's stuck. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can understand the whole cold part about Alexandria. I mean, for context, that's about 2 hours northwest.
Yeah.
Pretty cold at a lot of times during the year.
Yep.
So you had mentioned Daria. I want to get into that. Tell me about, because you, let me switch back to this thing and tell me about Daria, because one of the pictures that you sent over, boom, there you are with her. I believe you're at Cedarvale in that
Yep.
one. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What, obviously you seem to be a fan. How come?
I don't even know when I started following her, but it's been years and I just love the way she throws the ball. I think her form is amazing. And actually when I finally got to meet her, I believe it was back in 2019 or 2018 when they were here, one of the first times at Cedarville, I was determined to meet her. And David Pashina, Kayla Pashina was bowling with her, and David stops her and goes, "Hey, Daria, I have your biggest fan right here." And I'm like, oh, no. And she goes, "Oh, I remember you. I've talked to you on Instagram." And I'm like, great. Now she's probably going to think I'm stalking her. And then once I finally got to know her, she is a sweetheart. She is so nice and encouraging. I asked if we could take pictures together. She's like, "Yeah, give me your phone, pull Snapchat up." And she was putting filters on us. And she has the most contagious smile. And she's so nice. And I would love to be like her one day. Like, she's fantastic.
Yeah, that's a little video from the Twin Cities Open this past year. I noticed that she posted on Facebook about an hour and a half before we went on tonight. 1 lane courtesy, 2 lane courtesy, or PBA, PWBA double jump style. What do you prefer and why? I'll put it to you. Which one do you prefer?
I guess I haven't been in a tournament yet where I do the 2 lane courtesy, so I guess I'm going to have to go with the 1 lane courtesy.
Okay.
Just because I haven't experienced that yet. And I'm really surprised I haven't. But so I guess 1 lane courtesy, because that's all I've ever experienced.
That makes it nice and easy.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So these days, how much are you bowling? I mean, how many nights a week? You just bowled 2, tournaments over the weekend. Is that an every weekend thing for you, or just once in a while? Just
right now, it's been pretty recent, but it's not that, maybe once a month, depending if we go bowl like a Mike Hatton's tournaments, or I'm just sitting in a bowling alley with my husband because he wants to bowl the CBA or something.
Sure.
But right now I'm bowling Tuesdays and Thursdays at Blainbrook. And then I just got asked to sub on Wednesday nights at Andover every other week. So now I'm bowling 3 nights a week.
Okay. And Andover is where you had the big performance for Women's Association.
Yep.
Did that lead to the sub spot, or are these mutually exclusive things?
I don't know. I mean, it might have. The person that has asked me, I've known her my whole life. Sarah Cascino.
Sure.
I've known her my whole life. And she's known my dad longer than I've known my dad.
Yeah.
And she asked me, and I was like, oh, sure, why not? I'm like, it's practice. It gets me more practice in. I guess Andover is kind of a good place for me. I actually bowled my first Queens tournament there, fresh out of juniors, and I placed, I don't remember, like 7th or 8th at my first adult tournament there too, with Amber, actually.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That's quite a way to break in. You mentioned Hatton's tournament, and you've won one of those. That's what I do, which are typically on a sport condition. What should we know about how that tournament went and what led you to the victory?
I was just very locked in that day. I was throwing the ball good. I was getting lucky with my carry. And I don't remember if I was first or second seed. I was pretty up there. My first match, I had to go against Justice.
Well,
I was a little intimidated. I'm like, oh my gosh, this girl, I'm like, I know she can throw out really good games, but I got very lucky that game. And like, sadly for her, it wasn't in her favor that day. But I moved on. My second match, I was not allowed to miss. I was bowling against somebody who had 90 pins handicap against me.
Okay. So you got to strike early.
Yeah. And I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I don't know if I miss one pin. If I miss a 10 pin, I'm screwed.
Yeah.
Luckily, I made it through that one too. And then I believe was my last one. I went up against Camille. That was a very tough match. It was neck and neck the whole time. And I squeaked it out just by a few pins, I believe, if I remember right. And I came out with the championship. I mean, I've been runner-up a couple times, and I finally came out the championship winner.
Yeah. And that's got to feel great, right?
It did. I was like, finally, no more runner-up. I got the champion.
Yeah, for sure. Where do you go from here? Everybody kind of has a different goal with their bowling. Some of us really just want to stop missing so many flipping spares. Others, have honor score goals or tournament goals. What is it for you?
One day, I was hoping it would be this year, but they're not coming back. I was a goal to bowl the PWBA. I finally kind of got my confidence back up, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll give it a shot this time. And they're not coming back this year. So maybe when they come back, but I'm definitely, I have a feeling my 300's coming up pretty soon. I've been having some pretty big games that are creeping close to it. So I'm like, well, this second one must be around the corner somewhere. And honestly, if I ever get a 800 again, I want more 300s. I have one 800 and I am very content with just one. That was hard to get.
I was going to say PWBA is going to be in Waterloo at the end of the season.
It's not that far. I could think about it.
A few hours, yeah. Keep it in mind. You never know. All right. So I told you beforehand that we have you go off the sheet at the end of the show, and that's where I ask you to challenge somebody else. Doesn't have to be the greatest bowler in the world, but somebody who's passionate about the sport and has a unique story to tell to be on a future episode of the show. So Jessica Boyer, who would you like to challenge to be on a future episode of Bowling with the Fef?
Katie, actually.
Okay, great. Mm-hmm. And why Katie?
She is just full of energy, and she is passionate about the sport. She's positive. She works hard for it. She's a great person to bowl with. She's so much fun. She is a good bowler, and I think she would be good to have on the show to hear her story. I would love to hear her story, where it all started.
Yes, and yes. I've asked her to come on before, but I'm glad it's coming from somebody else. So maybe she'll say yes sooner or later.
I'm just gonna have to text her and be like, "You're on next."
She wants me to podcast this thing too, and that's something I've been considering and trying to find a way to do. But Katie, it's time. I mean, we've been going on more than 2 years now. You know where to find me. Yeah, we'll have you on the show. It'll be great. You'll love it. We're we're not coming back on till Friday, December 16th. Sean Neidhold rather, is a new freshman at Belmont Abbey University in North Carolina. I've interviewed a couple of his teammates. He's reached out, decided he wants to come on the show, and we will hear his bowling story coming up next. Again, a week from Friday is the next episode. Jay says hi, Fef. Hi, Jay. Thanks for watching and commenting. Jay left a comment, and I recorded a little YouTube short for him. So there's the carrot. If you want to comment on these videos, I'm going to try and start doing some more of those because it's fun. People seem to like that, seeing little videos, come up when they comment on the show. Jessica, I really appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much, and best of luck to you in your bowling future.
Thank you for having me. It was fun.
You bet. And thank you everybody for tuning in. Really appreciate that. You keep watching, and we will keep putting these shows on. Until next time, be just and fear not, and we'll see you a week from Friday.